one who's So, showing me shaking my head in my negative 19 feel after that Buffalo game where they don't on
Dolphins number one, baby!
Hands up, baby.
Dolphins number
Hands up.
one!
I swear, if a certain quarterback is mentioned in the comments, I got my beers ready. I'm going to crack it open.
Or is it the Serbian kid?
Serbia kid, This looks done. Oh my god, it looks fantastic.
I hate you so much.
No, you beat man. Gotta beat man.
Woo!
I'm the man. I said it, and it's reality. All right,
Congratulations.
Muy buenas noches, Miami. Welcome to another episode of Fast Break every Wednesday at 8:30. Thank you so much for being with us. Obviously on the Finstar Sports Network. Like, subscribe, do it for the culture. We are missing 1/3 of one of my right-hand man's, Clutch, the voice of God. So today will be voiceless, but nonetheless, we have Mr. Justin Garfield, traveling man. How you doing, bud?
I'm good. Coming to you from the Big D today, Dallas, Texas.
Ooh, Big D. That's the perfect way to start it. Thank you so much. First and foremost, I do apologize. Last week, we had to cancel the show short notice. I lost my voice after doing 10th Street Boys on Monday, and you couldn't hear shit from me. So Justin and Clutch were so willing to reschedule for me for a week. Obviously, Clutch is doing some work things, so he's going to be gone for today. We'll miss him, but most likely, and Justin, I mean, you're finding out on air, most likely it'll be Clutch and Justin next week. I'll be out of town. I'm going to be, my kids are on spring break, so I'll be out of town. So you probably won't see me only on Monday. But that's neither here nor there. I want to start it off, Justin, something we talked about last show, the whole Ja Morant situation. At the time, I had come out, obviously, the whole situation wasn't really explained thoroughly, per se. Now there's obviously video evidence of him flashing the gun. The nightclub is obviously working with the authorities. The moment Ja was suspended and he kind of entered into a rehab center, you kind of knew what he was doing. So what is your take on the whole situation with Ja? Are they being proactive with their superstar, Memphis? Is this a family thing? Is this a team thing? And obviously Power Ratings even pulling the ad for now. So are they being proactive or a little bit reactive at this time?
It's tough to say that it's proactive, because if they were proactive, they would have been actively risk managing and saying, no, this is never going to happen with one of our players, and here are the precautions we're taking. Everything here is being operated from a reactive standpoint. And, in this case, that you can't really put these proactive measures in unless you're just absolutely every single day or everything in your organization is just no gun violence, no sexual harassment, and then go down the list. I know he didn't do sexual harassment. I'm just saying there's other things in there.
Yeah.
But it should be common decency to be a human being and not throwing things like that on your Instagram Live, not even going live in the first place. I think he's caught in that Gen Z mindset of we got to do everything live, show that we got money. And let me tell you, everything that Ja does, he loves to flash that he has money. Have you seen what he's bought in Memphis? The mansions, the houses, everything. He bought his parents a mansion right next door to his house, and all the cars he bought.
Those are things that, for example, and it comes with the territory. I don't mind the house and for your parents and all that, but like you mentioned, the key part there was the necessity to flash it. And this is, as obviously he's young. You can tell there is some trouble psychologically, because you can go. There's a difference between being cocky on the basketball court and being confident in yourself, and then you start exhibiting those behaviors as your career. And this only been, we kind of saw this at the beginning of last year. And honestly, I don't mind. We coach a little. I wouldn't want to say a cocky team, but a hungry team. So I don't mind the cockiness in people, and you back it up with a certain level of humbleness. You have to accomplish something in order to be so sure of yourself. And Dylan Brooks, to me, I can't stand Dylan Brooks. He's a decent basketball player, but just the whole way that they operate, they think they've accomplished something. They haven't accomplished shit yet. So, not a knock on that, but you can see the warning signs starting to creep up as the season began. I don't mind like the interviews on ESPN saying that we don't care about the West. That's all cool. That's all basketball talk. But you can see the behaviors, and that's just us as fans. The organizations, every NBA organization, every professional sports organization has a security team, has a background check team where all these players are thoroughly vetted, and they're obviously at times are left to their own devices, which you can't be on someone for 24/7. But all these teams typically, they assign a player, they assign team personnel to make sure their stars are behaving accordingly. They're not doing anything that's going to affect them, themselves as a person, and the franchise as well. Because at the end of the day, there are ramifications on the court. So do you see, Justin, is this a situation that is fixable? Because to me, he checked into counseling this week, and his suspension is over Monday. So he can be back with the team within a week. I don't know if maybe this is ongoing counseling, if there's a program for him, but it seems to be obviously a lot of PR as well. I'm not saying that they don't care about Ja the person, because obviously they do, but we also understand that these teams automatically turn PR, because even as your representation, you start losing endorsements over behaviors like this. As you can just Powerade literally, I mean, Nike just launched its first signature shoe, and Powerade re-released their sports drink line with an NBA athlete, featured an NBA athlete, and Ja was a chosen athlete, and they pulled it. So those are things that are fixable in the long term. We understand, for example, like Kobe, obviously there was a different scenario, but when he was stripped of the Sprite endorsements and all his endorsements, and he rebuilt his image. Is this a case where you got to nip it in the bud now, take your hits now, or is this salvageable as a character because he's so young?
I think so. He is pretty young, and like you said, this is PR, everything. This is probably a PR move that he's having to do. Maybe he's just fine, and he is doing this whole council thing, maybe because he doesn't need it, and maybe because it's saving his face. It's saving face for the organization, saving face for the NBA, because they have protocols. Adam Silver has held this league to such a high standard ever since he got, what is it called? Got the job.
Commissioner, yeah.
Starting with Donald Sterling, he was zero tolerance, put all the pressure on him to sell the team, find him the most money possible. And Adam Silver has proven to be that kind of commissioner over and over again. So I'm not surprised to see that Ja's going through this way. I think he'll be able to rebound.
Yeah, and for the implications, obviously, I'll throw it to you before we go to any topic. And future NBA incentivizing their players, which is one of the topics I want to talk to you about, because I think it's a super innovative concept that a lot of leagues do. The playoff picture at the West, Justin. I'll talk a little bit later about the East, obviously, with our Heat talk. How do you see the season shaping up? We haven't talked in 2 weeks, really. So there's been some changes. Obviously, there's been a seismic change in acquisition that we really haven't seen as much on the court because of injury. So I'll throw that to you. How do you see the playoff picture in the West playing out with the Kevin Durant injuries, with the LeBron injuries? How do you see this finishing up?
I could see the Suns finishing probably in the middle, 4 or 5, if Kevin Durant's out for the rest of the regular season. If he comes back maybe the last week, maybe they rise to 3. I don't think they'll get up to 2. I don't see the Nuggets letting go of that number 1 seed.
No.
The way that they're playing, I would not be shocked to see the Kings finish second. I'm happy for those fans. They definitely deserve it.
What you just said, can you imagine it? There was no way in hell. We knew they were going to be talented. Mike Brown is going to, obviously, he's a defensive-minded coach. But did you even fathom that the Kings, obviously, let alone in the playoff race, but top 3 in their conference? Was that even a talk before the season started? Because I don't remember talking about this.
I knew that they were going to be a playoff team when they made the Sabonis trade last year, and then when they hired Mike Brown. There was no doubt in my mind that they were finally ready to make the playoffs. I didn't know it would be this soon. And I didn't know they'd be this good this quickly. But then again, there's no real great team in the NBA this year. We're not seeing a 2015-16 Golden State or anything that's just running away with anything. everybody is so close in the West that anybody could win it, I would say. But
Yeah.
I'd still say Phoenix is my favorite if Kevin Durant is healthy because star power always wins.
Yeah. And one team I'll keep an eye on, and which is insane, the Clippers, they're playing. I don't know if you heard the story. Their plane was hit by lightning midair.
I heard
So
about
they had a
that.
scare-
It's pretty
They
scary.
had a scare. That's a scary situation. I mean, kind of like their playoff picture right now. They're at 6. They're obviously, this is the great thing about the West. Literally from 4 to the play-in, and maybe you're separated by what, 3 games. So this could, if you go on a little 4-game losing streak towards the end of the season, your season could be done, or you find yourself in the play-in tournament. So now we're talking, like you mentioned, Lakers. The Warriors. I think the Warriors are going to stay at. I do believe that's their bottom part. You got the Mavericks fine. This is a situation where the Mavericks they get into the play-in tournament. You do a desperation trade in acquiring Kyrie, giving up certain assets for him without the assurance that he will sign. Defensively, you're still a mess. You don't play Christian Wood properly, which I honestly don't know how Jason Kidd survives this offseason, in my opinion, because he just doesn't seem like a good head coach to me. And not a knock on coaches, because I coach, I'm an assistant coach, so I don't want to knock on any coaches, but I just don't see him implementing his personnel properly. So this could be into effect. You got the Trailblazers once again fading away. Another Damian Lillard conversation this offseason. Even though he seems committed to Portland, rest assured there will be talks about Damian Lillard possibly being on the move. I don't see it happening, but there will be talks. So this season, kind of like, even in the West, you can tell the bottom pit where it was the Rockets, now the Spurs. Jazz are kind of even keel. They're still in the play-in tournament, but ideally they want to try to be closer to the lottery. So it's just interesting how it's going to play out. I'll swing it over to the East. Swing the pendulum over. Obviously, as a Heat fan, this has been one of the most frustrating seasons. I'm not going to lay out any excuse of team building, injuries. I have been stunned, and I don't think there's any explanation. I've tried to come up with certain scenarios of why we struggle so much shooting the 3 this year. I can't seem to find one. I understand maybe some difference in rotations, Bam being more aggressive. Gabe handling the point more. Tyler being more involved running the point. Victor Oladipo being healthy. There's just been such a massive drop-off that we are now finally seeing, possibly with the Cody injury. Omer is back in the lineup due to the Cody Zeller injury. So this is ideally the lineup that we had in mind in the beginning of the season, adding Kevin Love. You see where they're going. You see how they're finishing games with Oladipo closing, Tyler Hero closing, obviously Jimmy. Jimmy has been an absolute tear. And the other day when he walked out the court, I think he spoke for every fan in Miami this year. My respects to the front office, obviously to Pat, Andy. I don't doubt this season there will be changes, but he had to light a fire on their ass on this team. The way we're losing is inexcusable because we might not have all the talent in the world, but we do have the nucleus in place that should be consistent. And you can argue and say that Caleb Martin has been the most consistent player behind Jimmy. So from afar, Justin, how do you see the situation with the Heat playing out? I do believe Spo is getting into a comfortable semi-playoff rotation. So you might see towards the end of the season, Spo, there's days that he might go 8, 9, depending on the situation, depending on the matchup. You kind of see where Kyle is slated, maybe in the 20-minute range. Gabe in his 20-minute range, 25 minutes. Caleb, a sponge off the bench. He's just explosive. Takes over for Jimmy. K-Love, probably in the 20-minute range as well. Oladipo's been a closer. You want to see the consistency, so with Bam. I want to see Bam play consistent just like they did in the beginning of the season. Incorporating out, this is Jimmy time. This is what we're built for. We are built for the playoffs, and we are built to contain Jimmy until it's come playoff times, and he just explodes. So from afar, how do you see the situation with the Heat and the East for that matter?
Like I said, there's no great team in the NBA, so it is pretty wide open. You could say the Bucks are the favorite at 1, but then again, we've seen Giannis not show up in the playoffs. We've seen the rest of the team not be there for him at the same time. I'm not saying that Miami is good enough to win. They could be because of how weak the rest of the conference is. But I'd say if this was one of the years where there's a stronger team, this Miami team would not be going anywhere. And I'm not even sure that with the way that the team is playing right now, the chemistry, it's not
It's
quite as
off.
good as last year. It's all over the place. And you don't expect to see this from Spo coach team or a Riley managed team. Hey, this is Udonis Haslam's last team that he'll be on.
Yes.
We got to talk about that too. He's not playing any minutes, but he's watching his guys lose all these games either by blowout or super close and disappointing. Do you think that's how he wants to go out his last season? Probably not. No.
No. And that's one thing that I there is a plus to playing all these clutch games. I do believe we're leading the league in clutch games because at the end of the day, playoffs, it's basically a cluster of clutch games. So I don't mind that. But it also shows that your team struggles to close out opponents that it should be closing out manly, like manhandling them by 10, 15 points, double-digit wins. We struggle to contain those. We saw it was a part of the sub patterns, the rotations that we're doing. You can I've never seen Spo, and I know some injuries have happened, but I've never seen Spo so far into the season not be comfortable with a certain rotation. Obviously, that comes into play. We had a huge gap in a stretch 4. So Caleb was playing out of position that you saw. The moment we acquired Kevin Love, Caleb was switched automatically to what we envisioned for him this year. And what we always thought he would succeed. And don't get me wrong, Caleb exceeded expectations with his role initially. But now he's in a more comfortable situation for himself, for the team. But you mentioned something that's very important, is the camaraderie this team has. This team from the beginning of the year, I believe they expected changes, and sometimes it runs its course. There's a run that runs its course, and this team, if obviously, even if there's not an early exit, even if we advance, even make it to the conference finals, I do believe there will be some major changes because you're at a crossroad point here. Jimmy's still in his prime, and across the board, I mentioned this on Monday, this has been Jimmy Butler's most efficient year of his career. I believe in true efficiency, this has been his most efficient year. So once again, we prove the point that it doesn't matter if he's going to be 34, 35, he will be efficient in this team because all we need him to do is what Jimmy does. Get to the bucket, take your threes in the corners. He's very comfortable. He actually, one of the biggest knocks on Jimmy in his first year is that he didn't have a consistent jumper. We haven't seen that this year. Jimmy Butler's once again confident in his jumper. He has his range. He's getting to the basket at will. He is healthier, so we got to give credit where credit is due. The Heat have managed Jimmy's minutes where he's in below, I believe, 32, 33, which is perfect. Next year, he might even slim down another minute to conserve him for the playoffs, which is what we really need him. But I have never seen a team, because we do have talent. We have undrafted players, but we have talent at the top. We have top 3 talent where they haven't seemed to mesh this year. There's something off, and I was very weird to me because I understand sometimes a team coming back, being on the brink of a finals and coming back, you would think it would transition over. And I don't believe it was the subtraction of PJ Tucker because I would do that all over again and give Caleb Martin that contract. But there's just something off with the in-court chemistry, even of Kyle Lowry and Jimmy. Kyle playing with Tyler, they're not as comfortable, which is why I love Vincent playing with with Tyler. Sorry, and I do believe the lineup looks different if it had another shooter, which was the Kevin Love edition. So I really want to see how it looks now with Omer as the backup 5, relieving Bam for some minutes, and I really want to see Bam regain his consistency because at the end of the day, Jimmy and Bam have to be 1 and 2. Tyler is your all-around scorer, but Bam seems to be a little bit tired. His defense has wandered off a little bit. I don't know if it's the years catching up to him in regards. He's still young, but the defensive responsibilities that he's had and what he's had to overcome this year, maybe and overcompensate. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Because honestly, if you look at the standings, Justin, I really think the top 4 seeds are a lock already. We got 5 maybe with the Knicks. So even the Knicks might be a lock there because they're playing really good basketball. So from 6 to the play-in, this is our goal. Obviously, is to try to get into 6, to try to secure that spot. But not then you're facing a possible matchup with the Celtics, which I believe is Celtics or Sixers. I believe the Sixers are the third seed.
The Sixers are right now, and they could pass the Celtics, but I wouldn't like the Heat's chances against either of those teams in the postseason.
No,
Well,
I
I
would
don't know.
favor the
Maybe
Sixers.
we've seen James Harden fold, so maybe they'd
Yeah.
have a chance against Philly.
Yeah, I really do believe. I believe Philly doesn't want to get matched up against us in the first round because we give them problems. Defensively, we match up well to them. Boston can kind of outplay us, and honestly, I even like the way we match up with Milwaukee. But it's. I always said Miami get them to the playoffs when it's 0-0 and a new series starts. My money's always on the Heat in regards to that because I do believe we have enough to get over, but it's going to come into question.
I will say this: if the Heat do fall to 8 and the Bucks finish at 1, the winner of that first round matchup series always either sweeps and they win the championship. 2013, Miami sweeps Milwaukee first round; they win the championship. In 2021, Milwaukee sweeps Miami first round; Bucks win the championship.
So we see we got. There's a point to this. Which I don't mind. I don't mind it at all. As long as it leads us to the promised land. Can you imagine? That would be the epitome of us winning a championship this year when everything looked like it was supposed to go the opposite direction. If we actually make it to the finals and win a championship, because like you just mentioned, Justin, there is no clear-cut super team this year. Every team is pretty balanced, and when it comes to the playoff scenario, it's 0-0. When you start a series and you can take a game away, get the home court advantage, take 2 here, and you're up 3-1 easily. So those are scenarios that always play out, and that's why the regular season doesn't really matter, just to secure home court and kind of get into a rhythm, because you can even have a losing record. You make it to the playoffs, you win a championship, you're a champion no matter what. So let's see how it plays out. I'm hopeful. I want to see how this week plays out, the next following weeks, how they incorporate Omer into the lineup. That's my goal for this team. We need to get on a roll. We need to have consistency. I'm not even talking about winning or losing. Consistent play. That's what I want to see. But staying in that topic, NBA. We all saw this All-Star game, Justin. I lost interest after even the dunk contest. I mean, it's cool. McClung won, but you want your superstars competing in this. This is a showcase for the fans. That's like having a minor leaguer come up and be in a home run derby. It's very different in other teams, in other sports, where now they're talking about for the new CBA, you have to play a certain amount of games to even be considered for league awards, MVP, Rookie of the Year. And honestly, I believe that's how it always should be. I've never been a big fan of the fan votes for when it was fan only voting for the All-Star games because we're biased. I do believe now it's taken into account the coaches voting has a bigger percentage of voting, actually voting someone in. And I believe that you should be judged by your peers because, yeah, you can be biased, but if you can't vote for yourself, your peers usually are very honest with the talent on the leagues. So I do believe the NBA needs to find a way to incentivize the All-Star games, not pay them more money, but just make it part of your CBA agreement or encourage it. There's a lot of kids that don't get to see this conglomerate of talent ever. So you're doing a disservice to the fans when you're not performing to your top's ability. You're just doing a lazy effort. It becomes a layup line. It just becomes a dunk contest in the game. It's cool for the first couple minutes, but you want a competitive. I don't know if maybe they could do like Major League Baseball did, and whoever wins the All-Star game gets home court in the finals. That could be something that's cool, and to push, to motivate. Give them an extra a couple days for a break. Kind of like a more cool event. You know me, like I've always told you, Justin, here in Miami, I'm kind of frustrated because I would love to go to an All-Star game weekend, but it always coincides with a boat show. So I hope they come somehow. This is not difficult, guys. You can shift the All-Star weekend, maybe like 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after. Like, let's get this done where we can make a bid and actually host an All-Star game here in Miami again. The last one was in the 90s, I believe 1990. So what do you have in mind, Justin? If you're the commissioner, what sort of things can you incentivize players with to, number one, the load management? That's one thing to me, and we've talked about this a lot. If you are going to miss games for injuries, I understand. But if you're going to load manage you shouldn't miss away games as much, in my opinion, because a lot of fans that might be the only chance they have to see you. Not that I'm for. I do believe in maintaining your players, but maybe the league reduces the amount of games played in the season because sometimes it's pointless. Like, why do we have to play 82 games? Like, there's no point to that. If you want to make the season longer, okay, remove back-to-backs. You can prolong players' careers. You can keep fans entertained. You have enough games to have games every day. Just stop playing back-to-backs or those 3 games in 4 nights. Like, maybe there's no necessity for that. So what ideas, if any, do you have that could improve the league and for the time being and for the future?
You're kind of putting me on the spot here. I didn't really know what to
Oh,
expect.
no. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just you as a fan. What would you want to see? Like, you're going to an All-Star game. What do you want to see?
Heck, would I rather go to the All-Star game or would I rather go to the Miami Boat Show? I think that's a pretty easy question. I'd rather
There you
be
go.
on a boat in Miami. Why not just go have a party out in the boats? I'd rather watch that than these guys playing no defense in a basketball game for no reason, just exhibition. I don't know about you.
You just ruined my dream, man. I'm never going to get an All-Star game here.
Because, I mean, they probably don't have it in Miami because they're afraid. Well, number one, there's probably not going to be enough hotel space at that point.
No,
Number two, the players who aren't playing in the game and they're just there to have fun, they're going to be out in the boats partying, getting drunk, and then they're probably just going to – there's always the risk of a drunk driver, a drunk boater. I hate to say it, but it's a reality. You never know. Look what happened to Jose Fernandez a couple years ago.
Yes.
Rest in peace.
I remember – now that you say that, I remember the news, man. I was having breakfast, and my son at the time was 3 years old, and he was just playing. And I'm literally watching the ESPN breaking news, and it just shows up. And I'm like, at first you don't believe it. And then automatically when you see it happen, a boating accident, you automatically, unfortunately, that's what we gravitate to. You think about drugs, alcohol, young kid, bright future ahead of him. He was going to be a father soon. Those are things that you just mentioned, and it kind of puts you back in the place, and you're like, wow. And honestly, well, because the World Baseball Classic is going on in Miami, I'm super happy. Well, my son got to go to one of the games. My wife's Dominican. Her family's over. So I'm happy Cuba won today. We advanced they're advanced to semifinals. They're coming to Miami. I already said the joke that the team is coming over here. The plane is leaving empty. Like one of my Ralph was telling me. Only thing going on that plane to Cuba is a trophy if we win. But it's such a cool atmosphere to see Marlins to see Lone Depot Park packed, 38,000 people supporting their team, supporting their countries. Which Miami's a viable market for any major sports team. Yeah, we have a late arriving crowd, absolutely, because Miami has a lot of things. Number one, traffic.
And traffic, I was about to say, is number one.
Everywhere, man. And a lot of people, public transportation is not as big. That's what people don't realize. A lot of sports teams, and we kind of segue to here, a lot of sports teams, their major arenas, stadiums are downtown. A lot of cities up north have a well-established public transit system, metro rails, subways, whatever the case may be. Miami doesn't. Miami is far behind in that aspect. We have a lot of traffic and not a lot of parking next to the venues because we have Lone Depot Park in the middle of Little Havana where the Orange Bowl used to be. We got American Airlines Arena in downtown Miami, Biscayne Boulevard, where all skyscrapers are going up. So there's limited parking. Every game that we see, obviously Marlins support, we understand. Dolphins are always going to have the support. They're always going to be sold out. We have a massive.
They're the flagship team in South Florida. As much as the Heat have won, they are the flagship team. The Dolphins are.
It's funny. It's a basketball town, but now the football team once again is the talk of the town, and it came just at the right time. Sometimes it's funny how some teams tinker off. You might have a lot of your teams being successful at the same time. The Panthers are in the playoff contention again. We had kind of an off year, but it's vibing. It's a cool aspect when you see the landscape of Miami and sports teams. And now Inter Miami, our soccer team, we're just waiting for confirmation on Messi.
Beckham's boys.
That's all we're waiting for. And they're improving. They're going to get a new stadium soon. Obviously, here the buildings can start. So it's a fun time to be. Obviously, you're in LA. Everything's established over there already. There's nothing new going to happen. You have 2 soccer teams, 2 basketball teams. You have
the Clippers are getting a new arena.
Yes.
So that is going to be new. The
I saw
Dome right next to SoFi.
That is amazing. And Steve Ballmer, you know what you gotta love Steve Ballmer, because Steve Ballmer is that fan owner, that owner that when he was little, he loved sports so much that you knew that he owned a team. He will make it the best team all across the board when it comes to amenities, player relations, everything's accommodating to their player, to their coaches, to their staff, and that is privately financed, right? He's financing the whole project.
He's the richest owner in sports, so I'm not surprised that he is.
Because I remember he bought the Forum. They're building that in the Forum side, right?
No, the Forum is still there, but it's in just across the parking lot.
Just across the parking lot. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So are they going to tear down the Forum, or they're going to leave it?
I think they're going to leave it. They still use it for a bunch of concerts. I saw John Mayer there last year, and it's still, although it is old, it's still a nice little venue where you'd probably go there as with a date to a concert, have a nice glass of wine. It's just a great night out type of vibe.
You know, that's one of the two places where I always wanted to watch a basketball game. I always wanted to watch a basketball at the Forum and at Madison Square Garden. I always felt that watching a game in those two places is iconic. It's kind of going to like Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium. And I've never have been able to do that. I still want to go to Madison Square Garden, but now I doubt that they're going to play a game in the Forum. So, but that's one of our goals. That's one of my goals. I would like to go.
And you have to watch out, because don't be tweeting poorly about James Dolan, otherwise you'll be banned.
No, you can't say anything about James Dolan, man.
You cannot say anything about James Dolan. Nope.
I can't see myself being one of these overbearing owners where you control everything people say. Like you gotta have a little when you're in the limelight and you're constant news. You gotta have a sense of just laugh at yourself sometimes, man. You're gonna fail. You're gonna fail, like fail with dignity, you know. But people are so sensitive and they're so insecure about their stature. And it's funny because people think, oh, they're rich. Money doesn't buy you security. You know, on the contrary, sometimes being so wealthy kind of heightens your insecurities because you become paranoid. And then you own a major sports franchise, I believe the most valuable franchise in all of sports behind the Cowboys, right? Mm-hmm. Or is it like Cowboys, Lakers, Knicks?
Yeah, usually it's the Cowboys, and the Warriors have also come up way much in the last 10 years or so. I always forget who's second, but the Yankees are number 2.
Yankees. Mm-hmm. It's insane what a franchise is valued at right now. I mean, there's a little inflation now, even with the Broncos being bought by the Waltons, but it's incredible how much values these franchises have. It's insane.
Yeah. Going back to what you said about public transportation, I was in Vancouver, Canada last week, and I went to a Canucks game in the old Grizzlies place where they played.
Yes, I love it. Oh, man.
And so I was taking public transportation around there, and they say Vancouver is a utopian type city, and I saw exactly what they meant firsthand. The trains go just about anywhere. There's really just one main part of town, the downtown, where everything's going on, where they play, and it stops right there at the stadium. You just get off, and it was an exciting finish. It went to overtime, and the first 20 seconds, they scored the game-winning goal. The Canucks did.
Wow.
And everyone's going crazy. Everybody's leaving all happy, and they're just so well-coordinated, well-traveled up there in Vancouver and up there in Canada. New York's got the similar subway stop at Madison Square Garden. LA, you can take, I guess, the Expo line, the red line to the Expo line if you live in the Valley, like I used to do to go to Staples or Crypto.
Yeah, Crypto. It's so weird calling it Crypto. Well, it's kind of like our situation, Justin, here in Miami. Now we're Miami-Dade Arena because obviously FTX faltered. We removed the name from all across the arena. There's very few things left. I'm pretty sure we're going to get a sponsor, obviously, before next season, but now it's just back to Miami-Dade Arena. So it's just weird calling those places a different name, and it's the same building. Like, you know, like it's just not the same ring to it. Like the Staples Center. Now it's like Crypto.Arena. It's like
Crypto.com Arena. I hope there was no arena called Silicon Valley Bank Arena.
Oh, they're about to lose it. That's another topic, man. But Justin, just you mentioned, have you been to other parts of Canada, or just Vancouver?
Vancouver was my first trip to Canada ever last week. I'll be in Calgary next month or a couple months from now, and then Mississauga right next to Toronto in May.
That is awesome, man. That's so cool, man. You've gotten to travel every month. That's amazing. Obviously, we're not going to give any private details, but the fact that your line of job allows you to travel and still even be with us from all parts of the world. You're literally in Dallas today. You were in Los Angeles 2 weeks ago. You were in Vancouver last week. Vancouver 2 weeks ago. Sorry,
Sacramento in a couple weeks, New York a couple weeks after that, San Diego a couple weeks after that. I'm all over the place, man. But I am very fortunate to have the job that I do, and I'm just looking forward to seeing all these places and going to sports games wherever I'm at. Heck, if the Kings are in town in a couple weeks, I've never been to a Sacramento Kings game, so that could be something, especially in a year when they're going to the playoffs.
That to me, what you just said, Justin, is so cool because you get to experience your fandom thanks to your job and the ability it provides you. You're there any given night. You can go to any event you want there. That's taking advantage of a situation and basically appreciating it. That's really cool, man. You got for sure when we do a show, if you're in San Diego, if it happens to be on a Wednesday, we need a live shot of a San Diego sunset. I've heard San Diego is beautiful and the weather's beautiful. So I definitely would love a shot from there live.
Oh, you got it, man. You got it. I'll be in San Diego a couple times. But by the way, shameless little plug here. If you're looking for sports tickets or concert tickets, anything without any fees, you got to go check out this new app called Love Seats, LUV Seats. There's no fees whatsoever on any of the tickets. Go check them out.
Love Seats, man. I'm going to check that out, actually.
This was not a sponsored message, by the way. I'm just saying this because I know the founder and he's very trustworthy, and I want to help you save money on your tickets.
That is awesome. You see, because always believe it or not, a lot of families. We had one of the days that I wasn't able to do the show, we had no, not mind you. I had Monday. I wasn't gonna be able to do 10th Street Boys for Bobby. We had JIS night at the Heat Arena, which is my son's school. So we had the cool event and everything. The fact that, for example, if you got a family of 4 or 5, it costs you a pretty penny to go out on any given night to a sports venue because there's food, there's travel, there's tickets. So anything you can save up, that's always helpful. And especially, you don't want any surprise ticket charges at the end. There's always that surprise tax, convenience fee. I mean, they even charge you to print it at your own house. Well, now you're not printing. Now you just got to download it. But you're going to charge me to download it into my app? Like, come on, man. Like I understand you got to make a profit, but even that simple thing. So that's good. Love Seats. LUV, you said?
LUV Seats. That's correct.
Seats. Perfect. Well, there you go. For our audience, for the Finns Talk Sports Network loyal audience, oh, you got it there. But Justin,
yes, and if you want $5 off your first purchase, you can use JGARF promo code at checkout.
Boom.
That's
there we
JGARF.
Boom. There you go. Save even a little extra money. But that about wraps it up for us today. Justin, thank you so much for joining me. I usually give Clutch this, but any final words for our faithful audience?
Let's go Heat. Let's make a run.
There we go. I'm not going to add anything else because you just said it. Heat Nation, while we're playing tonight, let's see how that goes. For Justin, myself, don't forget to like, subscribe. Heat Culture, baby. Do it for the culture. We do got No Holds Bar coming up at 9 today, so I'll be producing that, so I won't be going too far. But for everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning in. Looking forward to, not next week me, but you'll probably see Justin and Clutch here on Fast Break at 8 p.m. next Wednesday. So, Justin, myself, Miami, let's go Heat.
Let's go.